Heist films, a staple of cinema history that have been around since the early 1950s. When you think heist films, you picture impossible plans, near misses, and sometimes a twist here or there. The genre's first films tend to have the heist ultimately fail as a result of restrictions imposed by the Motion Picture Production Code, but in the late 60s the production code was abandoned, allowing for new caper films to feature a successful heist instead. As the decades passed, the more recent heist films have experimented and played with different conventions and focused more on character relationships than the crime itself. The popularity and box office success of heist films over the years are clear, with early examples like Bonnie and Clyde, The Italian Job, and newer releases like The Usual Suspects, Heat, and Baby Driver, all proving hugely successful and popular amongst fans, critics, and even some getting a nomination for the Oscars here or there. Some heist films have been criticised, however, in recent years, in terms of how they represent women in these films and their own agency. The genre has mainly been male-dominated, with leading roles such as George Clooney in the Ocean series, Al Pacino and Robert De Niro in Heat, the entire cast of Reservoir Dogs, just to name a few. In these traditional heist films, women take a back seat and are relegated to either a more minor role in the heist or act as a prize for the leading man. Think Julia Roberts. The heist film genre certainly appeals and focuses on the masculine side of these crimes. This doesn't mean there hasn't been any female-led heist films. Thelma and Louise and Jackie Brown were some early examples that women could be way more than just eye candy, and the spin-off of the Ocean series, Ocean's 8 with its big-name cast, proved to still be bankable. Ocean 8's release proved to be one of the more recent successes for a female-led comedy, grossing over $140 million in the United States and Canada, and receiving mostly positive reviews. The film did prove to bring up the conversation of female-led remakes and how unoriginal it was, to which many of the cast members responded by claiming it was mostly male critics that were scoring the film low in reviews. Another 2018 release that also placed the woman in the centre of a role of a heist film was Steve McQueen's Widows, a story of women who have to steal to pay for their husband's past mistakes, with a strong cast made up of Viola Davis, Michelle Rodriguez, Elizabeth Digby, Cynthia Erivo, Colin Farrell, Daniel Kaluuya, Brian Tyree Henry, Robert Duvall, and Liam Neeson. The story of Widows is focused on the wives and girlfriends of 4 bank robbers who are killed in a bank robbery gone wrong. The money that they stole belonged to Jamal Manning, a local crime boss who was running for political office and was planning to use the money to fund his campaign. He tracks down Veronica Rawlings, the widow of Harry Rawlings, who planned and executed the heist, and threatens her to pay the $2 million that was lost. Veronica ends up finding Harry's plan for one last heist worth $5 million and decides to carry out the heist with 2 of the other widows of Harry's gang, Alice and Linda. The women are forced to become like their late husbands to make ends meet, with Alice having to become a sugar baby to pay the bills, Linda losing her store to her husband's unpaid debts, and Veronica having little money left. These 3 women, along with their getaway driver Belle, Linda's babysitter, set out to rob the $5 million from the Mulligan family, the politicians Jamal is running against. In the opening of the film, we can see the themes of hegemonic masculinity and feminism early on. Linda confronts her husband Carlos regarding issues with money, to which Carlos replies,
"Wait, are you accusing me of stealing your money?
Why do you look surprised? You do it for a living.
Where do you get that balls? What I do for this family, I risk my life."
Carlos stating himself as the de facto breadwinner despite Linda owning and running her own business, solidifying the idea that men have a sense of identity being the main breadwinner of the family. The other women introduced in the opening all live very different lifestyles and have to adapt to their new situations quickly, with Elizabeth Debicki's character, Alice, having little prior work experience and has to become a sugar baby, with her mother convincing her and saying, "Men are supposed to provide for you." When Alice dismisses the idea, not wanting money for sex, the conversation becomes aggressive. Again, this reaffirms the gender norms of having men being the main providers of the family, while the women raise the children and do the domestic housework. These gender roles can be again corresponded to hegemonic masculinity and how it frames men to be the ones in charge, with even other females like Alice's mother conforming to this idea, saying how Alice's only line of profession after her husband's death is to sexually please other men. The idea of men being providers and leaders in this story is constantly in the back of the film, with several characters referring to men, male characters, or being good men themselves, with the likes of Colin Farrell and Brian Tyree Henry's characters running for positions of power in Chicago, both of which are trying to show that they should be the individuals in charge to make positive change. What Widows does differently from any other heist film is it frames the women as the eventual heroes of the story, but in a much more cynical and depressing light. Whereas Ocean's 11 and The Italian Job shine the spotlight on criminals who aim to take back from those who do not deserve it, McQueen tells the story of women who have to reluctantly make up not only for their criminal past with their husbands, but to ensure they have a secure financial future. These women are undermined constantly throughout the film, but their bond over shared grief and fear inspires them to take charge and show that it's the men's fault for underestimating them. This is perfectly encapsulated by Viola Davis's speech before the heist.
We gotta start thinking like professionals. We're in business together. There's not gonna be some cozy reunion. After this job, we're done. We have 3 days to look and move like a team of men. The best thing we have going for us is being who we are.
Why?
Because no one thinks we have the balls to pull this off.
In the closing of the film, Veronica finds out her husband Harry is alive, a fact the audience knows halfway through the film after Veronica fails to convince the fourth widow, Amanda, to join her. It's shown that Amanda is hiding Harry. Harry attempts to steal $1 million from the heist profits but is subsequently killed by Veronica after stating that the death of their son and subsequent disintegration of their marriage made him want to start over with Amanda and their child. The man she loved for so many years betrayed her. Widows is a strong attempt to break the norm of what was considered a male-dominated genre and makes a compelling story about the women in this film. However, the men are never too far away and are still a focus in terms of being the enemy and trying to undermine their plans to fix their broken lives.